So today we are on with Amine. Amine is you're a senior or a junior
Junior,
at
yeah. Southern Utah
Southern
University.
Utah, yeah, Southern Utah University, CS student. So welcome to the interview, Amine. How are you doing today?
It's going great. It was rainy yesterday here, so it kind of stinks for April, but it's fine. We're good.
Are you in the desert there, or are you in the mountainy parts?
It's like a mountain, yeah. It's mountainside more, yeah.
Yeah, but is the elevation high, or are you kind of in the foothills?
Yeah. Elevation is high here, yeah. It's different air.
So how many students are at Southern Utah right
When I got here, it was like 8,000. Now I think just a little bit over 10,000.
now?
Right now, it's pretty small.
Uh-huh. And there are a lot of outdoor activities going on there, or
A lot, yeah. A
yeah,
lot of people like hiking and all that here. It's a great place for that. Like we have a lot of national parks around us, so it's pretty cool
right,
if you're into that. But yeah, it's a pretty popular activity around here.
right. Yeah, I would imagine. So you have a pretty interesting backstory, and we'll sort of start out with that, and then we'll sort of get into to college. So where are you from originally? I know you're not originally from Utah.
So my parents are from France, and my dad moved to study. Actually, no, my parents are from Algeria, which is a country in northern Africa, next to
Right.
Morocco. And my parents moved to France. My dad moved to France to get his to study in college. So I was born in Paris. I lived there most of my life until probably like 13, 14 years old. And then I moved to the south where now my parents live. It's a town called Perpignan in the south of France. It's like
I
30
cannot pronounce that.
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes from Spain. It's pretty warm over there. I really like it. So after graduating high school, through a program called Go Campus, I was able to get a nice scholarship at Southern Utah University. So this happened in August 2016. I moved here for a year. Then I wanted to see something else, to see more of America, new people. So I went on a year as an exchange student to a school called Bridgewater State University. It's next to Boston in Massachusetts. I stayed there 1 year. I really liked it. I met some amazing people. I had a great time. And I came back this year, last fall at Southern Utah University to complete my last 2 years.
That's awesome. So how'd you pick the U.S. and how'd you pick? I mean, Utah is I don't think the first place people think of when they think of coming to the U.S. So
Yeah. So U.S. was pretty obvious. I wanted to come to America my whole life. It's like, the whole pop culture, like movies, Hollywood, it all sells you that idea that you can follow the American. It's kind of cliche, but it's how it is for us foreigners.
Right.
But Utah was more like a coincidence. It was more like, that program, that foundation organization offered me a great scholarship. And without that, I wouldn't be able to afford school in America as an international student. So it was more like they offered me something and I just took it. Then, I wanted to go to Utah.
Mm. Yeah, that's cool. And you're liking Utah so far?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty cool here for school and outdoors and all that. I like it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's probably interesting to see sort of Utah versus Boston. I mean, they're just totally different environments.
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. So let's dive into a little bit of your CS background, your computer science background. How did you first get into programming, software, and things like that?
So I think I had my first experience with like any development. It was like when I was 15. I had my first experience with HTML and CSS, like building a simple website. I really liked music back in the days and making songs and all that. So I created a small website that would run on my local host computer, and that would like display my songs and all that, like biography about me and like fun facts and a bunch of stuff. So it was my first real experience. And after that, I wanted to be a doctor because my dad is a doctor. But I was like, I don't want to do something because my dad does it. I want to do something that I really enjoy and like it's the most important thing. So at 17, I was like, hey, I had like 1 year of thinking about it. I was like, what am I going to do? And at 17, I was like, hey, might as well go with the thing I really want to do, because you don't want to study 12 years, 10 years in college, pay a huge amount of money just to realize at the end that you actually hate your job. So
Right.
I was like, let's go with computer science. So I get here, and my first programming class is after my second semester of college, my freshman year. And at that time, I didn't really have any coding experience. Like I had, as I said, HTML, CSS, but it's not really programming like as per se.
Well, not like hardcore programming. It's
Yeah, it's
more
not. It was just like building websites, like playing with like the commands and all that.
right.
And it was more following a tutorial than like me really loving it and like doing the extra mile to learn more about it. So, and I didn't touch it for like a couple of years. So I really forgot. I just came here new, knowing nothing. And I had my first programming class. It went pretty good. However, I still like during that time I questioned my future in CS after failing one quiz once. I seriously questioned. I was like, am I fit for that major? I was like, ah. But eventually, like my motivation was there, and I went on, and now I'm really grateful for having chosen that major.
Nice. What was your first CS class, and what test did you fail?
It was programming. So it was like a foundation fundamentals of programming, whatever. It was like Java. It was like learning with Java. And my professor, she used to give us like quizzes, and she would just put a blank sheet, like a small piece of paper on your table, and you would open it when she says go, and you have a problem. My problem was like it was like ask the user what he wants to eat, and until the user says pizza, you just keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. And the logical way to do that is to do while loop. Like while the user input is not pizza, you ask what do you want to eat, and you try to keep looping. But I totally had forgotten about while loop, and I kept trying to do it with a for loop.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So I tried something after like being desperate. I was losing. I was getting crazy about it. I was like, oh, 5 minutes left. What do I do? What do I do? Everybody left behind before me, and I'm like, oh my god. So I did like a for loop, like from I0 that would run 10,000 times, so that when she tries, she thinks that I actually have a while loop. And then she checked my code, and she's like, no, it's not like that. And I was like, oh, I got 0. But she gave us the opportunity like to change the grade by giving us another problem like later on during the semester. So I was really happy about it. But that quiz, like I think I'm gonna remember it the rest of my life.
Yeah. You just kind of have to hope that they answer it within the first 10,000. First 10,000.
Yeah. I was like, maybe she won't check my code and think it's actually
Like hopefully she doesn't test this 10,000 times, but
I do. I was like, yeah. And
you can always see through it if you look at the code.
Yeah.
Cool. So I noticed you are in the mobile app club at Southern Utah University. Can you talk a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah, so I actually founded this club, the founder and president. I created it when I came here last fall, when I came back. I started the process of like filling all the paperwork and recruiting people during that summer when I was doing undergrad research. Well, how we do is like, I teach people. So I have like expertise. I've done work with iOS and Android, and a lot of people are eager to learn more about it because it's fun to make apps. Like it's more fun than implementing an API, you're creating a backend for a server, whatever.
Right. It's something visual you can interact with, and you can
and the design. Yeah, exactly. And it's easily shareable. You can show your friends. So I came with that idea. Like the recruiting went well. I was able to like gather a few people here and there. I got my friends on board. And how the club works is that every week we come in, and either I pick a tutorial that I have done in the past that taught me stuff. For example, we did a tutorial on how to create a game like Flappy Bird. A tutorial on like how to drag and drop an object on the screen, like a bunch of stuff like that. A tutorial how to retrieve information on your phone. And we'd go through those workshops, and I'm teaching them how to do that. And eventually the goal is that we split into different groups, and like each group picks up a project and tries to implement like whatever they want. They want to make a little app game. They want to create something that they can use. So that's the vision that I have for this club, and that's how it works.
Cool. So have you brought in any sort of guest speakers, or how are you sort of like facilitating some of the learning in there, or is it a lot of you sort of relaying your experience and knowledge about these various platforms?
Yeah, so right now is my first year as in being a club like founder president.
Right.
So where I live in Cedar City, Utah, it's not like a tech hub. Like it's kind of hard to bring like people who are knowledgeable about specific
From
things.
right.
All right, so it's kind of hard right now to bring guest speakers, but so everything is more led by lessons and like us working together. But
Hmm.
eventually, what I want to do is create like a network of like us in the club with people outside that would eventually require work for a mobile app for their business, whatever, so that they can come reach out to us and ask for help and maybe hire some of our developers. Also, like my vision for next year is to work with different other organizations on campus, like the student association, the government, etc., so that they would like give us a project at the beginning of the fall semester, and we would use this whole year with a team of
Oh, that's
developers
cool.
to go
Yeah.
through with it, and it's eventually going to be a project that's going to be used, an app that's going to be used for the school. Like I
Right.
don't know, like them to like order food from like the dining hall when
Uh,
you get out of class on your phone, whatever. So that's the idea I'm trying to go with next year.
yeah, I think that's a really good way to generate projects that are good for students and obviously good for the university because I mean these various organizations would need at least some of them will need tech in some capacity. But I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, something that can showcase on their resume, like it's the main
Right.
goal behind it. Like exactly that's it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. Um, so from your early CS classes at Southern Utah, how did you sort of end up in Boston? How did and maybe talk a little bit about your experience there.
So as I said, I grew up in Paris, and I live in the South, and I grew up in relatively big cities, and Cedar City is a really small city with like not a bunch of things around it. Like if you want to do something, like the closest is Vegas, and it's 2 hours, and I don't have a car and all that. So I wanted to get back to something and I know I lived in. So I was like, hey, I want to go somewhere like where I can like meet people, like connect with a lot of people, see a bunch of stuff, visit. And so here, like what you can do is like either go to Vegas, go to Cali, it's 5 hours, and Salt Lake, and that's about it. So and the East Coast is good because everything is really close. I was able to go to New York, like a 3 hour drive. I was able to go to
Mhm.
Washington D.C. So I was just like in that optic of meeting new people and seeing new things, and eventually that school in Bridgewater State in Massachusetts was the best option to like combine all those
Right.
aspects. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was raised in the Northeast, and everything's just so jam packed. You can get everywhere.
Yeah.
Philly, New York, DC, LA, Boston. I mean, all frighteningly fast.
Mhm.
So let's talk about some of your student projects that you've worked on outside of the mobile app club. I know you've had some interesting experiences there. You did some interesting stuff at Bridgewater State. You wanna maybe start there?
Mhm. So school projects or like outside of school projects? What do you mean?
Either one.
Okay. So Bridgewater State University was like a big step in my life because so I had this professor called Dr. Black for my second semester. My first semester day was my second programming class, and so it's Java, object oriented, all that. And at the end of the semester, after giving us after people submitting their final projects, he was like, "Oh, for those of you who want it, you can do an Android project for extra credit as an extra final project." And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do an Android project. It's like the chess game on my computer. I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that and I learn new stuff. So I did this for a project for that class, and like it was like the click. I was like, hey, I love this. This is really what I want to do. So I went on eventually to learn more stuff. I did like two more games on the Android for the Android Play Store with for Android with Java and all that. And he was able to help me get an undergraduate research position with him. And basically it was so it was at Bridgewater State University, and the geography department asked the computer science department to and technically me, since I was in that position, to build a weather station prototype so that they can like study movements on campus based on based on the weather outside. So basically, if it's raining, where do students go? How do they get to class? If it's sunny, where do they go? And the end goal was maybe it was to design better infrastructures like Wi-Fi poles, like light poles, and all that. So
So you're trying
and
to see how people move around and
exactly, yeah,
build campus infrastructure that is
exactly, yeah.
sort of conducive to helping people move around campus effectively.
Exactly, yeah. And so he was teaching my class called Embedded System. It was like basically a hardware class. And there was like a group of students who built like a very simple and basic and kind of buggy prototype. They had like not much time, so we can blame them. But like they had like a base for a prototype of weather station that didn't work very well, but like it kind of did what it needed to do. So I picked that project up. I improved it. I improved the efficiency. I changed a bunch of things here and there. And I was done like within a month, 3 weeks. So I was like, let's do something else because I have a lot of time on my hands. So I went to see him and he had an Android phone. So I was like, how about I build an Android interface for your phone so that you can directly track the data on your phone, like when you're at work, when you're at home, etc., and you can know where the weather station is and what it's doing. So I built this app called BSU Weather Station that's on the App Store. And the idea behind the app was to supply the demand of my client, but also build an app that could be used as an interface for any undergraduate research project that would need data retrieval on a phone. So like you could input, you can like go in the code, change the URL where the data is retrieved from, and basically the app would work the same for your project as for mine. So that was both ideas that led to the construction of that project. And so I learned a whole lot from that project. It was like my first real project I had to deliver to a client. Like he had to be happy, and like I couldn't just do like something that would make me happy. I had to think about everybody else outside, how people are using it. So it was like constant feedback going back and forth with the mentor and the client to know what's up. And eventually, like I had a product where like I can show you screenshots right now if you want. You want to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so give me a second. So record, I guess. Please record. Request record permission. Oh, wait, how do
you just hit share. There's a little green. Should be a little share button down there.
Yep. So do you see my screen right now?
I do.
So this was the main menu for the user interface. So this was the main module where you would go into it and see the data. You had this location module that would be used to retrieve the location of the weather station in case you forget where it is or just want to know what happened to it. Update would like check when the next flow of data will arrive. Email would allow to email the formatted report directly to the researcher. And website is a link. You will click website and opens the web page showing where the data is stored, like as a text file. So for example, this is what happens when you click on location. It tells you the longitude and latitude of the weather station. And this is the main view. So you swipe between the views, and the point was to store the 3 most recent reports. So you see temperature, humidity, you can refresh here, and you have the times and when the data was received. So that was like this project, and eventually at the end of the semester, at the end of the summer, he was really happy about it. I think like 4 days ago, I received an email from the guy that built the original weather station in that class. This what's it called? Embedded Systems. And he was like, oh, can you help me real quick with your app? We're trying to make it work for another project. So I reached out to him and we're going to do that, make it happen. So yeah, this was my first big experience with any development in general. And I was very, very grateful, and I learned a whole lot from this experience. On the side at that time, I also started Android Swift development for iOS with the online course. And I've been able to develop a bunch of things. My latest in date is this app called ClimaCloset. It's basically an app for kids to teach them how to dress.
Oh yeah, I love this idea.
Yeah, teach them how to dress. Uses a REST API called from Open Weather Map, and it communicates with it to retrieve data, weather data. You can input the city where you want to check, and you have like 3 views. The main one is the temperature. You go to the left, it's a text field where you can input the city and press OK, and it will like change the city for the app. And the third one, when you swipe to the right, is basically I call it my closet. It's where it generates an outfit for the weather that you're currently searching for. And I did like the whole thing. Look, I learned also a whole lot from it. Like swipeable views are kind of hard to work with, and yeah, because it's great.
You see them all the time, but they're not as straightforward as to implement as you might imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I also had like a great intuitive interface. Like the background would change color based on the time the sun sets and rises for the city you inputted. So yeah, those are my main projects that I've done in the past, and I learned a whole lot from it. And I think I'm really grateful I spent time doing it while I was at school, because right now, like, it got me to places that I could never dream of.
So what's the name of that project again?
ClimaCloset.
ClimaCloset. And the goal is to help. The goal is to help little kids sort of learn how to dress themselves based on the weather outside.
Exactly. Yep.
How did that come about?
Uh, everything that I do is from personal experience. Like my mom would force me to like she would wake me up very early, put my clothes in the bed. I'm like, can I choose my own clothes? She's like, no, it's you don't know how to do that. It's gonna be cold. You're gonna go with a t-shirt. I was like, nobody will suffer from that anymore.
I I have to say, in like third and fourth grade, I think I had those fights with my mom as well, where living in New Jersey, it would be 10 degrees outside, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and I would try to wear shorts and a t-shirt to school, and she was not a fan of that. But so are you going to share some of the screenshots you just said?
Yeah, of course. Actually, screenshot. Hold on, let me check. I don't know if I have the screenshots of that one because I didn't update mine.
Yeah, you don't have to if you don't have
Yeah, actually, let me check. I might have. Oh no.
And and we can edit this part out if you.
Okay, of course. Again, like I can show you the code if you want, but like screenshots, I need to update my GitHub with the screenshots to everything. But yeah, I also did when I started iOS. I also did like this app called FrenchieMe. Basically, it's an app. Sorry.
What's it? It's called Fried Shimmy.
No, FrenchieMe, like Frenchie.
Okay.
Basically, it's a quiz app with like about 3-4 modules with a bank question to teach you about the French culture when you go visit, like bunch of stuff. Like in France, you tip. Yes, no. People would think yes, but actually no, we don't tip because waiters are already paid for it. Like bunch of stuff like it's common to say hello to random people all the time, like hey, what's up, or like just smile at people. Well, in France, no. People think it's really weird. So it's a bunch of things like that. I may work with it because so at my school, I work a lot with international students. I'm one international student, but I'm an ambassador, and I'm going to be the international rep for the student government next year. And so eventually what I want to do is build like a comprehensive app for tourists that want to go anywhere. Basically, we'll have different modules: France, Germany, Algeria, Saudi Arabia. And basically you'll be able to choose and you get like a bank of questions that will like teach you more about the culture. So hopefully that's what I'm going to do next year after the summer. So that, because like I want to push it to the app store, but like the app store is really, really strict on what you push.
Right.
So eventually I want to do that to get it posted up there.
That's cool. And you could get students that have, they're from these places to contribute. So it really,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
And it's not like an American guy going over there and being like, hey, I spent a week in France and here's how the culture works. Like, you don't really know, but you would know. And
yeah, exactly. Like it's the whole point. Like people tell you about it. So
right.
I'm gonna show you. I have the GitHub repo updated for this. So this is FrenchieMe. So this is how it works. Like most grocery stores are closed on Sunday. This is true. So you have a bunch of questions like that with a score at the end, and when you're done and you get 100% of that module, you're able to move to the next one. So this was FrenchieMe.
Cool. Yeah, if you want to, we can take a look at the code, sort of after that. I because what I really want to talk about is your next project, Raven.
Yeah. I did a big update on that recently. Like I hit a big milestone. So basically, Raven, as I said, everything that I do is drawn from my mother. She has a lot of restrictions, and I want to solve those using technology. So my mom, every time me and my brother would get somewhere, like I'm going to school, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to play basketball, I'm going to my friend's house, she wants me to text her constantly to let her know that I arrived there. But I'm young, I don't want to do that, I forget about it, I'm busy, so I'm like, I won't. And usually she gets mad about it. So I was like, let's do something about it. And I created this app. I'm working on this app called Raven. Raven because in Game of Thrones, I'm a huge fan. They send ravens to send messages to people. So I was like, let's transpose that idea to my app. So the user has a choice to create ravens. So basically a raven, you specify name, phone number, location, like an address, and a message. And you save the raven. It's going to be stored in SQLite database in the app on the phone. Everything is stored locally because the point is not to have a very invasive monitoring app. Like I don't want my mom to know where I am 24/7. And I don't want to have like Google or the developer know where I am because everything is stored on the server. So everything is stored locally 100%. And how this works is that in the background of the app, there's GPS location updates constantly running. And when you hit those coordinates, or like in a certain radius, the message that you specified is going to be automatically sent to your recipient to your Raven, like the Raven is gonna be sent, and you're gonna receive a small notification to pop up on your phone. So I've been working on it for about 2 months, and 2 days ago I hit this big milestone where I was able to implement the background location updates. Like background threading, it's a hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I tried a bunch of things that didn't work. I tried one thing, it worked, but only on older phones because Android one of the latest versions, had to have a lot of restrictions on how all the background stuff that the user doesn't see. So it's restricting a lot background location updates. So eventually I was able to find something. It was using a foreground service, it's called, and I got everything running now. I'm really happy about it. And right now I'm just like connecting all the modules, like I'm working on connecting the SMS module to the GPS location module so that when you reach those locations, something is sent. So I have all those modules now separated. They all work perfectly fine. I just have to connect them, and hopefully it should be pushed to the App Store, to the Play Store within a week and a half, 2 weeks.
That's awesome. I love how a lot of your apps, like you said, are really derived from real life interactions with your mother, just trying to make mom happy.
Exactly.
But I also have to compliment you in sort of taking into consideration things like user privacy and not wanting to expose user data to services like Google just constantly. You know, I'm very conscious of that. I don't want Google knowing where I am.
Of course, nobody wants.
Right. So I'm glad that you're thinking about these things sort of young as a student and how to build like ethical technology as well as technology that serves a functional purpose. I think that's really cool. So
if you want, I can show you real quick what it's like.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Give me a second. So we'll share. I hope that my emulator won't be slow because I'm gonna run it in real time. Share. Okay, so this is the code right now. Gonna press run. Do you see the phone or no?
I see code right now. I see what looks like a mix of Java and Kotlin.
It's full Kotlin. Hold on. How do we change? I think I have to stop sharing and I have to share again. Okay, this is this. Okay, now you have the phone, right?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so right now I'm gonna probably change this little logo. So basically you turn the app on with this little switch right there.
Right.
Oh man, it's laggy because of the screen sharing. Holy cow.
Yeah, it can take up a lot of computer power.
Yeah.
You don't like that logo? I think that logo is pretty cool.
The off one?
No, the Raven in the background.
Oh yeah, the Raven is cool. It's just the off logo, like
right.
Oh my god. Okay, so now it's on. So basically, like you have the app turned on. It tells you. So those are Ravens I created. You can see the location right now. It tells you where you are, just for testing purposes. You have those Ravens that were created. If you click on one, you can delete it. Mm-hmm. So you have 3 Ravens that can be stored at a time because I don't want to use too much of the phone battery and phone storage. So this is the plus module, plus button, where you can actually go and create. Oh man, did it just close? Yeah, the CPU power, I don't have enough on my computer to run all that. So let's try to see that again. But yeah, so this is like a really good product. Like I'm really excited about doing it. Like it took me like quite a little bit to get motivated. I started like this back last summer. I did all the UI last summer. Then school started, I got lazy. But now like I really have to.
So is it a school project or an individual project?
Oh, individual project, like side project, yeah. So I have a friend helping me on it. Like he does like a little bit of stuff like notifications on the side,
right?
Like SMS modules, like small stuff. But like I did like 90% of the programming. So this is like at the Raven.
I see the Game of Thrones inspiration in here, or
yeah, yeah, the Raven like just got home.
Right, and the fonts.
Yeah, let's say key, phone number, whatever. Address, you can type whatever for that thing, and just got home.
Nice.
And then you would save it, and key would show up here, and like that's how it all works. And so as I said, I should be done like in a week and a half, and I'm really excited to post it and send it straight to my brother. Be like, hey, use this now.
Yeah, I'm gonna show this to my mom as well. I'm sure that will make her. Very
Okay.
but that's a really cool idea. I love apps that are simple, have like a very direct and defined focus, and really just accomplish one thing. You know, I see all the time people trying to build apps that do a million things at once, and if you try to do a million things at once, you're going to do nothing. And
Yeah.
and if you really focus on just solving one very specific problem for one very specific use case, that's when people actually use it and get value out of it.
Yeah, like I wanted to like set up like a login screen using Firebase. You heard of Firebase? Like a
Uh-huh.
login screen where you put in your credentials and you log in, like like a whole messaging interface inside of it, also using Firebase. But I was like, users don't want to go through all that. Like they just want to open, create a Raven, and leave their phone closed, shut,
Mm-hmm,
like the app shut
mm-hmm.
for the day. Like I was like, I don't need to do all that. So that's it.
Right, right. I mean, the amount of times I download an app that I think is cool, and then the first thing that happens when I open up the app is it asks me for a username and login. I would say 90% of the time right now, I just close out. It's like I don't need another login. I don't need to remember another password. I don't need to give my email to another service that they're gonna just ping me with their marketing messages.
Yeah.
It's do you really, really, really need a login? And if you don't, then don't use one. Because it just adds complexity where
Over programming, like there's no point in doing that.
right. It just adds complexity where complexity is not warranted. Um,
Yeah.
cool. So that's all really interesting stuff. Do you have any sort of code you want to? I know we just looked at some of the Raven code there.
Mhm.
Is that the project you sort of want to look at a little bit in
Yeah, of
more
course. Yeah, yeah.
more detail, or
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean
I'm
we
working
can
on
go
right
through.
now. So share, Android Studio, share. Okay, so this is Raven. This is the everything behind it. So here you have like this is how I set up my whole UI. So everything here is XML code.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a markup language, and that's how Android uses what Android uses to define the user interface. So I have that, and I created my screen to create a new Raven here. And I'm gonna close this log. And here everything, like you see text view for text and image view for this little close button. So everything is like designed like that in my XML. I enjoy XML because like you're able to achieve like stuff really easily. Like it's not like I'm used how I learned Java is creating everything programmed like Java, like a J panel and a J button, and then set something here and set something there. And when I learned Android, it was just crazy because it was so much simpler and you don't spend as much time on the UI, and you can focus on the actual like body of your app, the core, the logic of your app. So
Right.
this is
The thing with XML though is you really got to keep it organized, because I mean if you just have
yeah,
massive
of course.
massive XML files with and you don't take the time up front to keep
Yeah.
everything really clear and well defined and separated out, you're gonna end up with a giant mess.
Yeah, you learn about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things you learn from experience for sure.
Yeah. So these are all the modules in my app. So those two modules right here, database and application, are both used for the database stuff. So you see, this is used to insert Raven inside the database. This is used to retrieve all the Ravens inside the database with this query. This is used to delete one. And so this is how you connect. So this uses, for SQLite, this uses both Room, which is a library to abstract a layer of a persistence library to, what does it say? Abstract the layer of complexity of SQLite. And it also uses what's it called, Dagger, which is like a dependency injection to see like component this stuff, because it facilitates the whole process of like using database, especially in this case. So all that is like those are modules used to see Room, build a database, allow main thread queries. You bind the Raven provider. So this is all the database modules so that you can retrieve and manipulate data on the phone.
Right.
So this is going to be deleted because this is what my friend tried to do to implement the service, and didn't work. So like it was originally his task, but he couldn't do it. So I hopped up. And so I came with my implementation right here. So it's called background service because it runs in the background, but it's actually a foreground service. So that was kind of funny when I created it. So you have a bunch of variables and you have a location listener that I created. And basically this is where I check when the location changed. So when the location changed, I log it so that I can make sure it changed. And I notify my main view, hey, tell current longitude that it's actually changing and that you should set it to this longitude. Today I just added this block like 30 minutes before our interview. So I'm still working on it. So basically what it does is that so I have an array of 3 ravens, like 3 that are stored max, and I iterate through each one and check if as you can see here, if the longitude is equal, if the longitude right now, location and longitude is equal to the longitude of the object in the array. And if they are, and if the latitude is the same, means that you reach your location. And so while I'm working on the SMS module on how to send it, I've run into a couple issues. I just don't know why it doesn't work. Like it logs it, but I just don't receive the text. So I might have to look into it. Have you heard of Twilio?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to look into Twilio too, but you have to pay for that. And I'm all set. So, so this is the model. So the model is like the data element that's going to be stored. So it's stored in my database. It's an entity and it has a primary key, like an ID. A name, a phone number, a message, and the longitude and latitude for the location.
Very simple. Very simple model. Yeah.
So this was done by my friend. So it's like, we have a bunch of permissions that need to be requested. So it's like location, find location, course location. We have send SMS, we need internet, we need a bunch of stuff for our permissions that the user has to allow. And instead of putting everything into main activity and have like a big block of like 60, 70 lines of code just to check permissions, he put everything into a class and like called request permission, and all the permission requests are handled here. So this is how it works.
I think that's a really good way to organize things, is just separate like what is all of the functionality around permission or authentication or location services, anything like that, and just pull all of that out into its own files and classes and data structures, so that you can just hide all of those implementation details and just build APIs around it that you can use throughout the rest of the application.
Yeah, I try to make my code as modular as possible all the time.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, so providers is also like related to database module. So this is DAO is a data access object. And basically I create a Raven DAO in whatever class I want to retrieve data from. And I just call get all. So Raven DAO.get all, and it's going to retrieve all the ravens that I have stored. Raven.DAO.save, and I specify Raven as a parameter. It's just going to store the Raven inside the database. And so this is how my database works. I have this SMS module. So I have to figure out right now. It's kind of not working. I don't know why.
I mean that's sort of how programming goes.
Yeah.
This is not working. I don't know why.
Yeah, like I compile and just like pray. During when I was doing the background location, it was literally like that. I was compiling. I was like, please make it work. And eventually it worked. So I was like, yeah, but it was like really funny from the outside to like, you would see this nerd on his computer and then you'd be like praying to God. And I was like, yeah.
So I noticed that most of this project, if not all of it, is in Kotlin. And I think Kotlin's a really interesting language. Can you talk about why you went with Kotlin versus Java? Because I know a lot of your school experience has been in Java, and what you like about Kotlin and sort of why you went that direction.
So all my previous Android projects were done in Java because I had more experience with Java, and I had a little bit of I have Swift experience too, and I heard a lot from people that Kotlin was the way to go now. It's like Google are trying to separate from Oracle. So Kotlin was where like a lot of companies are trying to migrate a database to Kotlin instead of Java now. And I really noticed it when I was interviewing at Pandora, and they told me that this is like one of their main project right now, converting the entire database to Kotlin. So after like realizing all that, I was like, hey, I got to jump on the wave. I'm trying to work a lot with Android and iOS, and Kotlin is like something I need to know. So I was just like, hey, let's go with it and see how it goes. Surprisingly, people told me it was similar to Swift, but I was like, it's just like saying Java is similar to C++ because they have similar syntax. And surprisingly, it was like really similar, and I just didn't struggle at all doing like jumping between both languages. So it's just because like it's where Android is going towards, and because I already had experience with something very similar that just followed with it.
Yeah, Kotlin's really interesting because it promotes styles of programming that I don't really think Java is conducive for. Things like functional programming, which I am personally a big fan of. You know, all of my CS undergrad classes, or most of them, were very object-oriented heavy. And when I got exposure to functional programming, which I mostly just did through research on the internet, I noticed that my programming skills and especially my knowledge around theoretical programming and just the way I structured and thought about applications, I would say jumped like 10 levels, because it just forces you to think in a way that is, for me, much cleaner, and it really forces you to think about things like mutability in your variables, things like how you're managing state. It provides really good features and paradigms for handling very complex and large applications. And like I said, Kotlin's much more conducive to that than something like a Java, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. So this is like all those 3 classes right here are my classes for my view. So this is a loading screen with like a little circle loading. So this is my main activity. This is the main screen. This is my bigger chunk of code so far, and there, like I handle everything in there. It's how everything is connected, how I connect the database, how I connect to the pop-up, how I request the permissions, how I connect with the other view, add a new Raven, how I turn on and off the app with a toggle switch. So there's all that, how to delete a Raven, and there's all this stuff, how I constantly call update UI because I want to have a responsive and intuitive user interface, and how I connect the background service too. Everything is here basically. And like if you can see, so my main, it's like the main in Java. So it's on create. So this is the main. Like it's really brief. Like this could be deleted actually. Oh, so it's really brief. I have about 100 lines of my main. And that's because I love to separate everything into classes and functions, because you want everything to be modular, you know. So I just separate everything, turn screen on, have a function to show my delete Raven, and then I have to request the permission and have to update the UI. So everything is very modular, and it was really useful because when I would run into bugs, I would just target a specific portion of code instead of having to go through how everything relates and how I can just make a small edit, for example, to this function, populate Raven array, without affecting the rest, because I know that REST doesn't specifically need that function to function, you know?
Right.
So this is my main. So it's about 370 lines of code. I may add a few things. I'm not sure. We'll see. And so this is new Raven. This is where I actually create the Ravens and all that is handled. So I have a little override pop-up dialog. Basically, if you have 3 Ravens already stored and trying to save a new one, it's going to ask you, do you want to override, for example, Amine's Raven because it's the oldest that was added. Like, so this is how this pop-up works. Also request permission here just in case. And this is the big chunk of so when you valid buttons where you want to save. So I have a bunch of functions that get called. So first I check if all the fields are filled. And if they're not, like I just don't do the rest. And I just tell them, hey, please fill all the fields. If they are, I retrieved all the Ravens from the, from the database. Like if there's 2, if there's 1, if there's 3. Because I want to know like what's the index. So before, what I was doing, I was just like adding else. If all the fields are valid, I just say Raven data add to my SQLite database. But the problem was that I have IDs for each of my objects in database. And if I have Raven ID 0, which is the first one, and Raven ID 1 and ID 2, which are my 3 Ravens already stored, and I try to delete ID 1, the one in the middle, the other IDs are going to be really messed up when I try to add one, because I'm just going to try to increment the ID. I'm going to end up with ID 3 that is not going to be showed up in my screen, that I'm just not going to save. So I had to do a bunch of things. I had this function called check Raven override. So I check if there's already 3 Raven and if I should override it. Then I try to save it. And then I also have this function called updated Raven ID to check what is the correct ID, because I just don't want to increment all the time. If I have 3, I don't want to go to 4. I want to go back to 1 or 0. Like this is, so I had this bunch of functions I had to work around with. This is just for testing. Cancel should just go back to the main screen, but for testing, I just show a message showing all the Ravens stored like as a JSON array. I just show them for testing. I'm just making sure that they're here and they didn't disappear somewhere. So this isn't this big chunk of code where it's a function to get the correct Raven ID for the new objects to be saved in the database as I wrote it. I have save Raven, which is pretty explicit, just to save. I have check Raven override. I just check the size, and if it's more than 2, yes, I need to override. So this is to show the override Raven pop-up, like, hey, do you want to, it says 3 Ravens are already stored. Are you sure you want to override Amine's Raven, for example? And yeah, so this is about how my code is structured, everything. I try to make it as modular as possible. And right now I'm still working on a few things, but hopefully, as I said, it's going to be done soon. I'm just going to move on to greater things and new things. That's how I'm saying.
Nice. No, I think it's really cool, and I'm gonna tell my mom about it. I'm sure she will see. So before we wrap up here, I kind of wanted to talk about maybe. Well, first off, I know you have several interesting sort of things going on in your future. I know you are you interning with the New York Times? Is that? So are you allowed to talk about that at all? I would love to hear how that came about.
I was looking when I got here at SU for summer internships as a computer science student for this summer, and I had a list of all those companies that I wanted to apply for, and I would I started really applying around October, which is kind of late for some companies, surprisingly. Like for example, like Microsoft, Google, and all that, like they hire back in the summer. Like at the end of the summer, they posted, and like by October, they have already a lot of interns accepted. So I started late on that because I thought I was going to be all right. So I started applying, and New York Times is obviously one of my top companies because like New York Times, like when you come, like everybody knows about it. When you come from abroad, like everybody knows about it. It's like crazy. So it was one of my top companies, and December the 21st comes around, and I'm on that list reading it, and I'm like, oh, it's the turn of the New York Times to apply. So I apply, and thank God it was the last day. It was the deadline actually to apply for this position. It was a software engineering position, and it was like an Android specific position, and I applied for it. Within a week, I received an email from my recruiter, which was really, really nice and really excited for me when I got the offer. And so I go through a bunch of interviews. I had one phone screen, then I had phone screen, then I had 2 more and 1 technical, like programming with 2 engineers, where I had like in my screen, and they asked me a bunch of Android related questions. So I received a call around the end of January to offer me the position, and like, okay, so you can answer to this by email and sign the offer letter. I was like, yes, I'm accepting on the phone. I was like, what do you mean? Like, hell yeah, I'm accepting. So I accepted that offer, and I'm really excited. I'm going to be interning in the Android core newsreader team, like the main app for Android of the company, this summer at their headquarters in New York. And I just can't wait to get started. Like, it's a great environment. This was like one of my top choices. I also received 2 other offers, one from Pandora and Oakland, their headquarters, but I thought the New York Times was a better opportunity for me at this point in my career. And another one from a small startup in Utah. And overall, I'm just like really excited and grateful. I would have never thought that I would be able to get here like 5 months, 6 months ago. So
right. I think the New York Times is really cool because you're not only going to be exposed to like technology and smart people, you're going to be exposed to like the broader context of what is happening at the New York Times. I mean, you're going to be interacting with people that really understand the happenings of the world on a much deeper level than like other companies out there.
Yeah, and even like exchanging with other previous interns that worked at the New York Times, like now they're at Facebook, they're like at Pinterest, they're at Google, and then like those are eventually my goals in the future. Like I want to maybe I want to maybe work for a big company. And I'm like those people made it from there. So I was like, I want to follow a similar path. And I'm talking about it right now, but like, I would totally see myself working full time at the New York Times. Like I haven't started working, but from what I've heard from those interns, like it just sounds amazing. Like my team was amazing during the interview process. So I'm just like really excited to get started, and we'll see what happens this summer.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna switch out my headphones here because my AirPods are about to die, and then we'll hop into the last part.
Okay. And
now, can you hear me?
yep.
Okay, cool. So we're back. So let's go over some just quick rapid fire questions, and then we can wrap up. So if you're looking back on all of your computer science experience so far, all of your studies, all of your the knowledge that you've gained building apps, what would you tell yourself on day one? Like, what would you what advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself to, because when I started college, I thought that because I went to a small state school and because I dreamed of bigger schools. I didn't have the choice to apply to those schools because I knew I wouldn't be able to afford it. And just being able to come to a smaller state school was already like a great opportunity for me because of my dream to come to America. So I had this very stupid idea that because I go to small school, the companies that I dream of working for, New York Times and all that, they would look at all those people from Ivy Leagues, from UCLA, from Berkeley. They won't look at me from Southern Utah. So I had this stupid thought in my mind that because I come from a small school, I should like set my aspirations and ambition small too. And if I could go back in time and tell myself day one, hey, don't listen to all that crap that's going on into your mind. Like, this is not because you come from small school that you have to set your ambitions low. Like, you can't achieve as much as other people, and other people did coming from small schools too. So
Right.
This is what I said myself at this point. Yeah.
I mean, I think computer science and programming in particular is one of those fields that
Meritocracy.
It's what?
Meritocracy.
Oh, yeah, meritocracy. Yeah, it's much more about what can you do and the talents that you have as instead of what credentials do you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why you see so many dropouts doing cool stuff.
True.
So what platform or language or technology are you most excited to work with in the future that you currently don't know?
Currently don't know.
Something like machine learning, AI. For me personally, it's something like blockchain.
So I want to do a master's in a couple of fields I'm really interested in. Of course, machine learning. Like I see people on LinkedIn like, hey, I build this and it can predict blah blah blah. I build this and it recognizes what drink you're holding. I'm like, wow, like it's something I want to work with. And probably computer vision. Like I'm really interested in how computers interact with the world, like by seeing stuff. So this is probably the main fields I want to explore in my future.
Like saying vision, things like that, like image recognition. Yeah,
machine learning and computer vision. That's what I was saying.
So do you have any thoughts around where you want to pursue those studies further, or have you made it that far?
Yeah, so I want to work a year and then probably try to go to master's. So I'm an international student. My situation is kind of different. Like I don't think I need to go. Like I would love to go to do a master's because you learn a lot. But if I was American and I would get a job at a great company and I would just have a full-time position, I would maybe not consider doing a master's. But my situation is different because I need an H-1B visa, which is like a working visa for international workers, foreigners. So after graduation, basically I have 3 years of authorized visa related to my study, to my field of study. And I want to extend it as much as possible. And one way to extend it is to work 1 year. And then you apply for that visa because it's basically a lottery. Like if you work for a big company, you have more chances in the lottery, of course, but it's basically a lottery. So if I work 1 year and I get this worker visa, I don't know if I'm going to do master's. I mean, just like work full time. But if I don't get it, I'm going to go 2 years to school and then use again my 3 years to be able to work and also apply for that worker visa so that I can have most chances to get it. And as I said, I don't want to set my ambitions low. One of my great mentors here at school and professor, she did her master's at CMU, Carnegie Mellon, and she's been helping other students get there. Like I think 4 people from my school got there, and it's definitely something I want to achieve. So I've been working a lot with her to boost my chances to get there. Of course, I want to try UC Berkeley, and it's like just like all those great programs that teach computer science.
Cool. So that's really awesome. Final 2 questions, maybe 1.5 questions. What's the most negative programming experience that you've learned from so far? Whether it's something like failing that quiz or interacting with weird people on the internet, just anything that made you like, well,
okay.
What did you?
Yeah, so recently, so I'm part of that Slack community for Utah Android developers, like a great community, great people. I met like a great mentor there too, like who's been helping me out a lot with interviewing and all that. And recently I received, 3 weeks ago, I received a message from someone saying, hi, I saw your profile in the community and I'm looking for Android developers to help us build something. So I texted him quick on Slack and then we hop on a phone call. It was like for a startup in Canada that's trying to hit like a round of funding, and I need the demo done by the end of the month. And so their main platform is Android right now because the iOS is completed, and they were hiring a whole lot of people to work on it. So this dude I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm interested. It's part-time remote, and the office is based in Salt Lake. So I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. I would work there before my internship, and when I come back to school, so that I can make some money on the side and get a programming experience, you know. So I talked to him, we hop on a phone call, he tells me all that, and he's like, I'm going to send you a coding challenge. I'm like, okay. So I'm used to interviewing, data structures, algorithm, on Android questions, all that, I'm used to it. Coding challenges, I've heard of it, like you send me something, I build an app, I have a couple of days to do that. I'm like, okay. He sends me a coding challenge, build an app. The app was basically, if I had to do it, it would take me maybe a month. And he asked me for 2 days. And it was not because I suck or I'm lazy or whatever. It was just because he was basically asking me to build a full app. He was asking me to build an app that would locate using Google Maps and that would show multiple people on the map as they move in real time. Asking me to build a Socket.io server and client. Asking me to use RX Android, which is like reactive programming, and it's like brand new. It works really well, but I've never used it, so I need to get accustomed to it. So he asked me like a bunch of crazy stuff to build. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I can do that. I'm like, I'm just may not be the right fit right now. I'm like, I'm sorry, thank you. And he sends me, I have a simpler coding challenge. I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah. And he sends me a link to designs of what seemed to be the app that he's trying to build. And I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? He's like, oh, can you build a sign-in page and sign-up pages? I'm like, yeah, of course I can do that. I can do that. I can build it. And I'm like, at the beginning, when he sent me the first coding challenge, one of my friend in class, he's kind of older, he's like 40 something, and he has life experience and all that. He's like, it sounds like he's trying to make you build his app, you know that. I'm like, no, I couldn't see the big picture from the app. I was like, it's weird, and then he sent me the designs of the app, asking me to build a sign up, and I'm like, there's something really fishy. I call my friend at Amazon, talk to my friends on the Slack community, my mentors, and I'm just like, I just text him, I'm like, hey, thank you, I can do it, but can I have something unrelated to the final product because I would like to be under contract if I have to create something that may be used eventually in what you're trying to build, guys. So he's like, yeah, of course, but this is not related. Don't worry, everybody does that for the coding challenge. We have multiple versions, blah, blah. It's already implemented anyways. So I'm like, yeah, still, I would like something else. Like ask me to build sign-up pages for an app for restaurants or whatever. I don't care, but if you send me the design of and it's not just the design of the sign up and sign in, he sent me the design of the whole app. And I was like, I would rather be on a contract. And then he starts getting unprofessional. Oh, this is not how it works, blah, blah, blah. And he tries to convince me to do it. And then he tells me, oh, you're just talk right now. The only thing I have, not even a resume. I just have a link to a GitHub repo that may not even be yours. And then he starts telling me that, what did he tell me to do? He tells me, oh, I seriously question your ability to take on any Android development. So he starts getting very frustrated, and I'm like, thank you very much. So I stopped responding. I'm like, I hope that you find the right one, but I don't think I can fully commit in such an environment. And I just say, good luck to you. And he keeps texting me. I don't answer. And he's like, oh, at least I'm happy that our coding challenge was able to filter bad candidates. At least it's working well. Good luck to you as well. And I didn't respond, but it was just like very negative experience. Like I thought that like from recruiters or business people or managers, maybe like they really want to hire, they're aggressive on how they're doing it, they need it. But from another engineer, it kind of hurt me because like he knows what it's like, he knows the grind, like to have to build something, he knows what he knew what he was asking me to do. So I'm like, it's totally unethical, unprofessional. And he knew also he also knew I was a college student because in my introduction to the Slack community, I said, hey, I'm a junior right now, blah, blah. And he also knew all that, and he still tried to take advantage of a college student. And thank God I was not desperate for work because I have an internship lined up. But I'm pretty sure that if I was desperate for work, I got rejections from everywhere I applied to. I would have probably done what he would have asked me to because I just need experience and I'm trying to get work, you know? So it's just like a really negative experience, really shameful. And I just hope that he's going to either get better at like he's going to do things more ethically with the next candidates, like people he tries to reach to, or just like stop because it's it's bad. So that was really recent and that was really shocking.
And it's there's a funny sort of coincidence there where I guess that was going on with you, and then at the same time, you know, you and I first started interacting, and you know, we're interacting on the internet, and you were only really interacting with that guy on the internet. So you actually told me that you were very suspicious of me when we first started interacting.
I was.
Like who are these people on the internet? But that's you know, I've been there. You know, I talk to people on the internet all the time, and you know, you do have to realize that, or you do have to be conscious of the fact that there are a lot of scammers out there. There are a lot of sketchy people out there, and there are a lot of people that really, they don't care about helping you in any sort of way. They just want to use you for some of their own ends, and I'm glad you sort of were able to see through that and get through a lot of that rather unscathed. But that's one of the reasons that you know, I really take the time to introduce, you know, myself to you and tell you a lot of my backstory, so that, you know, you have to build trust on the internet. You do have to build trust because, you know, anyone can go on the internet and say anything they want about themselves, and it could be true, it could be not. It's hard to tell. So really getting to know someone, I think, is really important, especially as, you know, we really begin to interact on the internet more and more. And, you know, everyone's looking for jobs on the internet. Everyone's looking for projects on the internet. And, you know, figuring out who you're dealing with on the other end of that phone call is tricky. And that's actually one of the problems that we're like helping to solve here is with these interviews that, you know, you can take and do whatever you want with, is to show people like, this is me as the developer, this is who you're interacting with. And it allows you to like gain, to show that you're like a straightforward person and that you know what you're talking about and things like that. So like I said, I'm glad you got out of that one unscathed, because people can be sketchy and weird. So on the flip side of that, final question, you know, what's sort of the most positive experience you've had? Anything that you've really enjoyed working on? Any advice from a professor or a challenge maybe that you didn't think you were going to overcome, that you kind of had a spur moment of inspiration and were able to sort of tackle a specific challenge? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think it would be this internship period, like recruiting, interviewing period. It's, you know what it's like interviewing for software engineering positions. It's not so much about what your resume says or what you've built in the past. It's also a lot about data structure problems, where it's a whole different skill. Like, you can build amazing stuff, you can build Uber, but if you don't know how to do a linked list, if you don't know how to do a tree traversal, like, you just won't get through the screener, through the interview. because it's kind of unrelated, but you still have to learn about it. You have to practice. And my whole internship interviewing experience with multiple companies, it was just me coming every day into the library, opening lead code and like doing problems and trying to understand. It's just like a headache, and yeah, I hated it. Like I had better stuff to do. I feel like I had like classes, I had like projects I wanted to work on, but I was here trying to create all the, I don't know, permutation in the string that would like match the string. And I'm like,
right.
So it was really a headache. I had to do reading and all that. And it was kind of not negative, but it was like the grind that everybody had to go through. But it was just really positive to get rewarded at the end of that season, where I received a call and I almost cried. I received a call and I was like, oh, this team really liked you. It was a tough, blah, blah, and decided to choose you because, as I said, I still had that mindset that until I got the internship that I'm working hard, but are people going to notice it because I come from Southern Utah University? Are people going to see it? Because I checked the other interns in the New York Times, for instance. They're all from Berkeley. They're all from Harvard. They're all from MIT. So I'm like, am I going to be recognized for it? And when I received that call, it was just like the most positive experience I've ever had in my life, I think. I mean, this year, like, it was just like my work rewarded for who I am. Like, usually it's my dad who rewards me. Oh, take money. You got a great grade. Let's go eat out. You had a great grade. Let's go do something. You had a great grade. But for the first time in my life, it was people outside of my family recognizing my hard work and rewarding me for it. So it was such a positive experience. And I think I'm going to remember that my whole life too. It's like as a quiz, I'm never going to forget it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really sweet. And congratulations on that internship. I think, like I said, I think you're going to get a lot of exposure to a lot of interesting people and ideas, both inside the computer science programming world as well as outside, just because the nature of the New York Times, people are having very interesting discussions. People are talking about, global affairs, U.S. politics, international politics in a way
across all the spectrum. It's like it's just gonna be crazy. Like people are gonna be journalists that won Pulitzers, and I'm gonna see them and maybe talk to them. Like it's just, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from my people who I'm working with, like mentors and tech people, but I'm also going to learn a lot from like people who are not actually doing tech and doing something totally unrelated. So photograph, creative directors and all that, and just going to be a very rich summer. I hope I'm going to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is that in downtown Manhattan? Is that in the big building that says New York Times across the thing? That's sweet. So are you going to be living up in Manhattan this summer, or?
I wanted to get an apartment, but so I've only been to New York once. I don't have any relative in America, so it's kind of tough when you don't know anybody to get an apartment, especially for short term, because you got to find the apartment, got to find a roommate, find a bunch of things, and imagine I pay everything, I get there, and it's not what I expected from the pictures. So the New York Times and a lot of other firms in New York, like Bloomberg, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they have this housing option where they invite their interns to get housing in the New York University dorms. And so I accepted it, and basically like you pay and the application fee and all that, and the New York Times bought like rooms. They rented rooms in the building, and I'm gonna be with other interns, and it's gonna be great networking opportunity too with other interns from other firms, other companies. Yeah. So this is where I'm going to live in the NYU dorm called Gramercy Green. It's pretty clean.
That's sweet. I'm glad you're not having to dish out like $10,000 a month for a shoebox apartment.
Yeah. I mean, like it's still expensive, like $365 a week, plus a $500 application fee. But I can't afford it because of the pay, and also because for what it's worth, it's good because like the neighborhood is good. Like usually in that neighborhood you get something for $2,000 a month. So I was like $1,600 a month. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I mean the experience of working at the New York Times and that internship is
exactly.
That's almost, I wouldn't say it's exactly priceless, but it's up there.
I hope it's gonna be priceless.
Cool. So I'm gonna stop the